Have you ever looked at someone with $100,000 in their savings account and wondered what that actually means for their life? I mean, we throw around these big numbers all the time, but most people have absolutely no clue what having six figures in the bank actually does for someone's day-to-day existence. Well, here's something that might shock you. That person with 100 grand saved up isn't just slightly better off than someone with 10,000. They're operating in a completely different financial universe, and the differences go way deeper than you probably imagine. My name is Zach, and I spend way too much time analyzing how money actually works in people's real lives. If you're curious about what different levels of wealth actually mean in practical terms, make sure to hit that subscribe button because we're about to dive deep into the psychology and reality of serious savings. Here's what we're going to cover today. First, I'm going to show you the immediate psychological changes that happen when someone crosses that six-figure threshold. Then, we'll explore the specific lifestyle freedoms that unlock at this level. After that, we'll break down the investment opportunities that become available and why they matter so much. Finally, I'll reveal the hidden advantages that most people never even consider when they think about having this much money saved. But before we get into all that, let me tell you something that will completely change how you think about money. Most people believe that having $100,000 means you can buy $100,000 worth of stuff. That's not even close to how this actually works. The real power of significant savings isn't in what you can spend, it's in what you don't have to worry about anymore. Think about this for a moment. When someone has $100,000 sitting in their accounts, they've essentially bought themselves out of an entire category of human stress. They're no longer part of that group of people who lose sleep over unexpected expenses. They've graduated from financial survival mode into something completely different. The first thing that changes is their relationship with emergencies. You know how most people talk about that $400 emergency expense that would completely derail their month. Well, someone with serious savings doesn't just handle that $400 easily. They can handle the $4,000 emergency without breaking a sweat. Their car transmission dies, their roof starts leaking, their laptop crashes the day before an important presentation. None of these situations create the panic and scrambling that defines most people's financial lives. But here's where it gets really interesting. It's not just about the big emergencies. Having substantial savings changes how you handle every single small inconvenience that comes up. Your phone screen cracks, and instead of spending 3 days researching the cheapest repair options or living with a damaged screen for months, you just get it fixed. Your favorite restaurant is booked, so you make a reservation somewhere more expensive without calculating whether you can afford it. This might sound trivial, but these tiny freedoms compound into something much bigger. When you're not constantly making financial calculations for every minor decision, your mental energy gets freed up for other things. You can focus on your career, your relationships, your health, your hobbies. All that brain power that used to go toward financial stress management gets redirected toward actually building the life you want. The second major change is what happens to your career decisions. Most people are trapped in jobs they don't love because they need the steady paycheck. They stay in situations that drain their energy, work for bosses they can't stand, and accept compensation that doesn't reflect their value because they're afraid of the financial uncertainty that comes with making a change. Someone with $100,000 in savings operates under completely different rules. They can afford to be selective about opportunities. If their current job becomes unbearable, they have the luxury of quitting before they have something else lined up. They can take time to find the right opportunity instead of jumping at the first offer that comes along. Even more importantly, they can take calculated risks that could dramatically improve their financial situation. Maybe they've always wanted to start a business, but they never could afford to give up their regular income. With substantial savings, they can survive for months or even years while building something of their own. They can invest in additional education or training that might lead to better opportunities. They can relocate to a city with more job prospects without worrying about how they'll survive if things don't work out immediately. This financial cushion doesn't just change what they can do professionally. It changes how they approach their career psychologically. When you're not desperate for income, you negotiate differently. You present yourself with more confidence. You're willing to walk away from situations that aren't right for you. Employers can sense this confidence, and it often leads to better offers and more respect in the workplace. The third transformation happens in their investment mindset. Here's something most people don't realize. When you have smaller amounts saved up, you're limited to certain types of investments. You might put money in a basic savings account, or maybe buy some index funds through an app on your phone. But when you cross that six-figure threshold, entirely different categories of opportunities become available. You can start looking at real estate investments that weren't realistic before. Maybe you can't buy a rental property outright, but you can make substantial down payments on multiple properties. You can consider private lending opportunities that require minimum investments of $10,000 or $20,000. You might be able to participate in investment partnerships or business ventures that were previously out of reach. More importantly, you can afford to take on slightly more risk in pursuit of higher returns. When someone only has $5,000 saved, they might keep all of it in ultra-safe investments because they can't afford to lose any of it. But when you have $100,000, you can put $70,000 in conservative investments and use the remaining $30,000 to pursue opportunities with higher growth potential. This is where the math starts getting really interesting. Let's say you're earning 8% annually on conservative investments. 8% of $100,000 is $8,000 per year in passive income. That's more than $600 every month that your money earns without you doing anything. Compare that to 8% of $10,000, which is only $800 per year, or about $67 per month. The difference isn't just proportional, it's psychological. When your investments are generating meaningful amounts of money each month, you start thinking differently about wealth building. You begin to understand how rich people actually get richer. It's not just about saving money from your job. It's about having enough money that the money itself starts earning significant returns. But here's the part that really separates people with substantial savings from everyone else. They develop what I call financial patience. When you have a solid financial foundation, you can afford to wait for the right opportunities instead of jumping at whatever is available right now. You can wait for the perfect house to come on the market instead of settling for something that's just okay. You can wait for your dream job instead of taking the first offer you receive. This patience extends to every area of their financial lives. They can wait for sales on major purchases. They can take their time researching investment options instead of making hasty decisions. They can even wait out temporary market downturns instead of panicking and selling their investments at the worst possible time. Most people are operating in a state of financial urgency that forces them to make suboptimal decisions constantly. But when you have serious savings, you gain the luxury of making decisions based on what's actually best for you rather than what you can afford right now. The fifth transformation is probably the most profound, and it's something that happens gradually without most people even noticing it. Their entire relationship with time changes. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're constantly trading time for money in the most literal sense possible. You work more hours to earn more money. You spend hours researching the cheapest options for everything you buy. You waste time dealing with the consequences of buying cheap things that break. But when you have substantial savings, time becomes more valuable than money in many situations. Instead of spending 3 hours driving to 5 different stores to save $20, you just pay the extra $20 and use those 3 hours for something more meaningful. Instead of taking on extra work that you hate just to earn a few $100 more, you protect your free time and your sanity. This shift in priorities often leads to what economists call lifestyle arbitrage. You start paying for convenience in ways that actually improve your quality of life dramatically. Maybe you hire a house cleaner, so you can spend weekends doing things you enjoy instead of scrubbing bathrooms. Maybe you pay extra for grocery delivery instead of fighting crowds at the supermarket. Maybe you upgrade your flights to avoid the stress and discomfort of budget travel. These aren't just luxury expenses, they're investments in your own well-being and productivity. When you're less stressed and have more energy, you perform better at work, you're more present in your relationships, and you're generally happier with your life. The money you spend on convenience often pays for itself by improving your ability to earn more money or simply by making your existing money feel more valuable. The sixth change is something that happens to your social dynamics, and it's both liberating and sometimes challenging. When you have serious savings, you stop relating to financial stress in the same way that most of your friends and family do. Their anxieties about money start feeling foreign to you. Their excitement about small financial wins might seem disproportionate. Their panic about unexpected expenses might seem like overreactions. This can create some distance in relationships, but it also opens up new possibilities for how you interact with people. You can be more generous without expecting anything in return because the amounts that feel significant to others don't represent major sacrifices for you. You can pick up the check at dinner without calculating whether you can afford it. You can lend money to friends without worrying about whether they'll pay you back. More importantly, you can make social choices based on what you actually enjoy rather than what fits your budget. If your friends want to go somewhere expensive and you'd rather stay home, you can stay home because you want to, not because you can't afford to go. If you want to attend an event that costs more than your usual entertainment budget, you can make that choice based on how much you think you'll enjoy it. The seventh transformation affects your relationship with your future self in ways that most people never consider. When you have substantial savings, you're essentially in a conversation with the person you'll be in 10, 20, or 30 years. Every financial decision you make is informed by how it will affect that future version of yourself. This long-term thinking changes everything. You're more willing to invest in your health because you can afford both the upfront costs and any time away from work. You're more likely to maintain your possessions properly because you understand that prevention is cheaper than replacement. You make housing decisions based on long-term value rather than just monthly payments you can barely afford. You also start thinking about legacy in ways that weren't possible before. Maybe you can't leave your children millions of dollars, but you can ensure they won't have to support you financially in your old age. Maybe you can help fund their education or give them a head start on their own savings. Maybe you can contribute to causes you care about without sacrificing your own security. The eighth shift is perhaps the most subtle, but also the most powerful. You develop what I call financial intuition. When you've successfully saved and managed a substantial amount of money, you start understanding how money actually works at a deeper level. You can sense good and bad financial opportunities more easily. You understand the true cost of different lifestyle choices. You can evaluate trade-offs more accurately. This intuition helps you avoid the financial mistakes that trap so many people. You're less likely to fall for get-rich-quick schemes because you understand how real wealth is actually built. You're less likely to make emotional financial decisions because you've experienced the benefits of patience and discipline. You're less likely to be impressed by other people's apparent wealth because you understand the difference between looking rich and being rich. This financial wisdom becomes a compound advantage. The better you get at managing money, the faster your money grows, which gives you more opportunities to practice and improve your financial skills. It's a positive cycle that accelerates over time, which is why people who successfully save their first 100,000 often find it much easier to save their second 100,000. The ninth transformation is something that happens to your risk tolerance, and it's completely counterintuitive to what most people expect. You might think that having more money makes you more conservative, more afraid of losing what you've built. But the opposite actually happens. When you have substantial savings, you become more willing to take intelligent risks because you can afford to recover from failures. This isn't about being reckless with money. It's about understanding that the biggest risk is often not taking any risks at all. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, any financial setback could be catastrophic, so you're forced to play it safe even when safe choices limit your potential. But when you have $100,000 backing you up, you can afford to bet on yourself in ways that weren't possible before. Maybe you've always wanted to start that business, but you never could risk losing your steady income. Now, you can take a calculated shot at entrepreneurship, knowing that if it doesn't work out, you won't end up homeless. Maybe there's a certification or degree that could dramatically increase your earning potential, but the time and money investment always seemed too risky. With substantial savings, these investments in yourself become much more feasible. And if you're getting value from understanding what real financial security actually looks like, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. We break down the psychology of money and wealth building and want to miss what's coming up next. This ways that actually makes sense for real people. Trust me, you don't increased risk tolerance also applies to your investment strategy. When you only have a few $1,000s saved, you might keep everything in ultra-safe accounts because you can't afford to lose any of it. But when you have six figures, you can afford to put portions of your money into higher growth investments that might be more volatile in the short term, but offer better returns over time. The 10th shift is something that affects your daily mental state in profound ways. You develop what psychologists call financial self-efficacy. This is the deep confidence that comes from knowing you can handle whatever financial challenges life throws at you. It's not arrogance or overconfidence. It's the quiet certainty that comes from having successfully navigated financial obstacles and built something substantial. This confidence changes how you move through the world. You're more willing to speak up at work because you're not terrified of losing your job. You're more likely to advocate for yourself in negotiations because you have options if things don't work out. You carry yourself differently because you're not operating from a place of financial desperation. So there you have it. $100,000 in savings isn't just a number in your bank account. It's a complete transformation of how you experience life, make decisions, and think about your future. From the psychological freedom of not worrying about emergencies, to the career flexibility that comes with financial security, from the investment opportunities that become available to the confidence that changes how you navigate every aspect of your existence. The person with six figures saved isn't just 10 times better off than someone with 10,000. They're operating in an entirely different reality, where money becomes a tool for creating the life they want, rather than a constant source of stress and limitation. If this breakdown helped you understand what real financial security actually looks like, smash that subscribe button because we're just getting started on this journey to financial freedom.